I have been living for 3.5 years in Japan now, and today I want to talk about the 4 things that made me a better man, a wiser man, a total Zen master. Well, maybe not a complete Zen master, and maybe not even an objectively better person, but at least I want to believe it. So stick with me, because I'm nearing an age where I can claim that old man's wisdom, talking about all the experience I've had and the good old times when I was young. Only need the Gandalf beard for that. Anyway, so let's talk about the 4 things that made me a better person in my own eyes, discuss the causes and implications of each point, both on the micro level, which is me as an individual, but also on the macro level and how it impacts society. So let's take a deep dive together right after you click that like button, and let's start. So the first point is what I already alluded to. I became a wiser man. Now this might sound a little bit grandiose, but what I really mean is that living in a different culture teaches you a lot of things. I grew up in Germany, which of course means I went through German education, through a German social environment. I had German friends, one German parent, one Polish parent. And yeah, while there are a lot of immigrants in Europe and you have a lot of exchange of cultures, you still basically grow up with that Western mindset, which, let's be honest, is heavily influenced by the United States of America, where the individual is the focal point. But I also think it's not a big revelation when I say that people in Japan think way more about the community. It's not just me, like stick out your elbows and fight. No, it's more about the being together. Now, I don't want to take away too much for point number 3, so keep in mind what I said here, but instead I want to talk about how eye-opening it is to live in a different culture. And it's not only about serious stuff, like laws or morality, but also the simple fact that people here have completely different celebrities, idols, stars, which is kind of fascinating to realize. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not someone who worships any celebrities, so I basically don't know any Japanese idols, and I frankly don't give a damn about them. Well, that's true for Western celebrities as well though, but it's still fascinating what people talk about, and it really takes away the mindset that the West is the center of the world. It's not. Asia is much bigger than the West population-wise. So when I say I became a wiser man, what I mean is that it has become much easier to see things from different perspectives. And sure, yeah, in 2021 we always preach about tolerance and acceptance and whatnot, but practice is always different, and many people who preach tolerance oftentimes think like, oh, look at that crazy dude over there, why is he like that? And I mean, just look at Japanese portrayal in the Western media, where they always highlight the wacky, weird stuff about Japan, because yeah, I get it, it's more interesting than saying it's a normal country where people work, eat, shit and live. But living here makes you really question a lot of ideals and ethics that I carry from my education in Germany, which is a good thing, because you should always question the status quo so you can grow as a person. Alright, second point I want to talk about is confidence. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that I lacked confidence when I was younger, but I definitely lacked the confidence to act upon my confidence. Does that make sense? What I mean is I had the confidence in my abilities, but I was always only talking about what I could do, and I would never actually do it. I think I speak to a lot of people with this problem. Now, when I was an innocent university student and in full weeb mode, I started learning Japanese, and after going to Japan for the first time, a dream was born. I told myself that I'm gonna live in Japan. I remember the moment where I did that. I was hiking in Kamakura with my lovely mom, shout out to her, and we walked down the great Buddha hiking path in Kamakura. Talk about being zen here. And there's a spot where you have this amazing view on the coastline of Kamakura, and I made my vow there that I will live in Japan in the future. Well, as I told you, I've been living here for 3.5 years, so I succeeded in that. Now, maybe for some people it's not an achievement to move to a different country, but for me it hit a trigger. From that point, once I made it here, I had the feeling that I can do anything. The difference was that this time I would actually do it. So first step was coming to Japan, finding an apartment, settle down, and then I quickly started to try to improve my career, which led me to start studying programming. And not a year later, I nailed a gig as a programmer, with an intermezzo as a venue IT manager for the Olympic Games. I talk about the experience in this video if you're interested. But point is, moving to a foreign country, and especially in Asia where the language is so foreign and the culture is so foreign, it made me more confident and more assertive. And I believe that to be a good thing. Now, before you start hating and give this video a thumbs down, which to be honest is also good for the algorithm, so Go ahead. I don't want to brag here or be arrogant, and I will talk about that in point 4, so stick with me here. Alright, the third point I want to talk about is being considerate of others. Now this point of course heavily relies on the thing I was talking about in the beginning, about how your social environment or your education influences your behavior and ethics. And you can definitely feel the Confucian school of thought here in Asia, meaning that not the individual is the most important entity, but society as a whole, the greater good. Now we can discuss if that is good on a macro level. If you have ever been to Japan, you probably know how clean it is, how people follow the rules, how everyone is super nice, service is excellent. I mean, you know the deal, everyone is raving about their trip to Japan. And they're right, I was like that. And I think the West can learn a lot from that mindset. But of course it also has weaknesses. Maybe you've heard the famous Japanese proverb, the nail that sticks out gets hammered back in. To achieve harmony in society, people are aiming for a certain uniformity, meaning there's less space to express your individual freedom or personality. This of course can be observed in most high schools here, where students have to wear a certain school uniform and have black hair, in the workplace where a lot of companies still follow traditional rules, or even in daily life where people avoid discussions or confrontations of any sort to protect the harmony. I oftentimes clash with my Japanese girlfriend because of that point, but even that being said, I still think there's a trend to more individualism in Japan as well, especially with the younger generation here. And I think a balance is important, because now going to the micro level, if I talk about myself, I can definitely say that I was more egotistic when living in Germany. I probably was loud in public spaces way too often. I occasionally littered because I had the mindset, oh, you know, someone's gonna pick it up, but not me. I'm sorry, karma gods. And I basically had the mindset like, I do what I want, and if you don't like that, and fuck off. Now I don't want to put myself on a high pedestal here because I'm still rather the assertive type and I'm not gonna deny that, but I certainly think more about others before acting now. And I certainly don't litter in Japan. Like, I rigorously carry my trash here because there are no trash cans all the way home or to the next conveni. And I like that. It makes me feel more wholesome. Which perfectly leads to point number 4 I want to talk about, humbleness. Yes, the last point I want to talk about is humbleness. I was bragging a lot in that video and I'm gonna brag now about my humbleness. While I said that I gained a lot of confidence by moving here, it also made me realize how little I actually know. And that goes kind of hand in hand, because in high school I was that arrogant prick who was thinking I can take on the whole empire by myself. I mean, the whole world by myself. And as I mentioned, without ever doing that, taking action both gave me confidence and a new perspective of how little I actually know. That of course starts with the Japanese language. I achieved to get N2, but I still wouldn't say I'm perfectly fluent. I'm not even close. And it made me gain respect for all the immigrants in other countries and how hard it is to actually integrate into a different society. But also living in Tokyo in general is just fascinating because you meet so many different people who sometimes have really fascinating careers or stories to tell about their own life. And coming from a small town in Germany, it's suddenly like swimming with the big fishes. Now by any means that does not mean that I look up to these people and be like, oh my god, your career is so impressive, please teach me, senpai. But it gives me a motivation to work on myself and keep grinding, like with this YouTube channel. It's also a humbling experience to move into a tiny little Japanese apartment of 20 square meters after growing up in a pretty big house in Germany. Like, jobless people in Germany get an apartment for free and they still complain that it's too tiny, while it's like, I think 40 square meters, and I'm here paying 800 bucks for a little closet. And while I say this, we have to realize that people live in much poorer and much worse conditions than that. So it was a humbling experience because I learned to appreciate what I have or what I had and be thankful for the situation I am in, as well as to learn to appreciate the simpler life, away from mindless consumerism all the way to the Zen master. After all, if you like this video, consider to subscribe. New video every week. Let me know in the comments what made you grow as a person, what experience in life defines you. I'm really curious about that. And with that being said, let's wrap it up for today's week. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one. Sayonara.